Hey y'all. I think okay, yeah, it's going. All right. Hey y'all. Happy Saturday. Um, I have it's been a minute. It's been a minute. But y'all know I am notorious for taking the time that is necessary to heal. I think so many in this day of social media use this platform to heal or while they're healing instead of sitting in the presence of God in solitude. And that can be very dangerous, right? Because you can't control this platform nor the contents that you're exposed to while you're healing. And so that could be very hurtful, harmful to you while you are healing. So, anyways, I'm here, um, and there's something that the Lord placed on my heart that I think is so important, um, that just pressed upon me to share. So many of us, women and men included, especially so in um, our community, um, the Black community, struggle with um, holding sacred our value. We struggle with this because systematically we've been pigeonholed in a place where our value is not appreciated, it's diminished. And because of this systematic oppressiveness to our value, we are, as a consequences of this, we develop these broken homes, and even homes that have two parents in it. Um, it's still broken in the sense of the value um, that is imparted upon our children and preserved within ourselves is is absent. And as a result, we enter in society and we seek to add value to ourselves based upon societal mis I, I want to say this right. We seek to add value to ourselves using things in society that is of little value. That's how I want to say it. We use things that are of little value and we seek to identify it as value. And I say it in this way, right? We are notorious for looking at someone, the way what they drive, where they live, how much money they make, and we say, "Oh yeah, that is value." Now, I heard an interview the other day with um, Dr. Bryant and Cam Newton, and which was an interesting interview, to say the least. But one of the things that she was talking about was, and they kept on stressing, high value men, high value women. And I thought to myself, well, what makes them high value? And when they went to go explain this high value, it was all things that is it depreciates And if you know anything about value, value does not depreciate, but anything that is of value always appreciates, right? Appreciates in value. And so that was very interesting to me because we have grown as a society to take what is it's like it's perishable, right? And we have associated ourselves with this to determine our value. And so I wanted to just have this conversation because it is understanding your value is so important in every aspect of your life, where you what you accept as far as work, what you accept as far as your relationships, what you accept as far as your love, who you date, um, all kind of goes down to your how you value yourself. Because if you don't value yourself, you're gonna find that you are constantly feeling this sense of rejection. You're constantly feeling this sense of abandonment. When you don't value yourself, your how you hold yourself as far as this world is dependent upon some external source for which you have no control over, right? You could today be a multi-millionaire, billionaire, and tomorrow be flat broke. I mean, we've seen it. We know that it happens. We know that it's possible, right? And so it's important that we understand our value, because if we don't understand our value, we continue to live our lives based upon our dependency for external validation, we will find ourselves, old on our deathbed with a lot of regrets of life. And so I want to say that to say this: our value was assigned to us, given to us before we were even formed in our mother's womb. When there was a concept in the mind of God, when we were a concept in the mind of God, our value was assigned to us. Call C.G. Jung, a psychologist. Y'all could look this up. A psychologist, non-psychologist, he holds the given theory in psychology. Says that our mind is made up of three components: our imago Dei, that is our true self, right? Our collective unconscious, which is made up of suppressed emotions and experiences that the mind does not have the conscious ability to hold, but needs to suppress it in order for you to feel safe, right? Because remember, the mind always goes to safety at any cost. And so that's your collective unconscious, and then your conscious mind. Okay. So who we are, our value as human beings, right? Each individual is assigned to us before we were even born. And what I find that is interesting about this is that we have no control over that value. We can't take from it, right? And we can't add to it. It is a value that is constant. And the beauty about it, it is structured that it appreciates in value, but it never depreciates. And I find that is just a moment to just give God thanks, right? It is a value that appreciates. It always appreciates, but never depreciates. And I'll say it like this, right? Every experience that we have in life brings us into a realization of our true self if we handle it in a healthy manner, if we approach it in a healthy way, right? So, for example, if we take from the experience in the sense of, well, why me? Why did this have to happen to me? Right? If we look at it from the sense of a negative view, right? We take from it a negative experience. But if we look through the lens of there's something in this experience, though it's hard, that is manifesting in me something that was like that is manifesting part of my true identity, right? Something that was in me before I was even created in this earth. Because all of us come into this earth, believe it or not, on purpose. God is very intentional. And so everything God does is intentional. And so we were created with on purpose for a purpose, right? We were created on purpose for a purpose. And that's just not to say it, but we do. There is value in each and every person that is in this earth. Whether that value is realized or not does not change that there is value in each and every person that is created here on earth. God did not make mistake, right? God did not make a mistake. You are here because there is something that is about you that only you, right, can satisfy that need in this earth, right? Creation eagerly awaits the manifestation of the sons of God. That's another thing for another day. But yeah. So it is important that you understand that you have a value inside of you, your imago Dei, your true self that was created by God for the benefit of creation, right? So if you come into anything if it's a job, if it is a relationship, right? We must first understand that, right? We must first understand that. We also need to understand that because someone makes a decision contrary to our value does not affect the value that you have. For example, I had a really good friend that helped me through my divorce, um, when I was in my 20s. And one day we were talking, right? And he loved him some Louis Vuitton, right? And he said to me, well, Louis don't go on sale. It's never discounted. Because y'all know I love me some discounts, right? So anyways, he's like, Louis don't go on sale. Louis is never discounted. And I was like, wait, what? And that got me thinking when I was thinking about this the other day. I said that Louis Vuitton, whatever merchandise it is, the value of that item is fixed at its creation, right? By its manufacturer. and that value never changes. Because you walk into a store and you choose, whether it is by desire or your lack of capacity to purchase it, does not affect the value of that item, right? And so, in the same space, even though we are way more valuable than any Louis Vuitton in this earth, in that same space, we too are unaffected by a person's decision to value, to acknowledge our value, right? Whether it is by their ability to hold our value, hold space for our value, or their inability to hold space for our value, right? Because we know that, and I'll stay there for a moment, we know that people grow according to how God feels, or whether, well, their decision to receive what God is, how God is leading them into growth. Not everybody's going to see you and understand your value. Not everybody is going to see you and appreciate your value. But that does not affect the value itself. Because someone does not see my value does not mean that my value does not exist. It simply means that the person chose to make a decision um, to not hold space for why God created me, right? For what I hold within myself, right? And that speaks true for all of us. Because you walk on a job and you are able to bring to that job your unique ability, and because that individual that employs you does not see that unique ability, does not deny the existence of that unique ability, it simply means that that individual will, that employer in that particular instance, will not get the benefit that is realized from appreciating that value that is in you. That's simply what it is. It's nothing for us to hold personal, because one of the gifts that God gives us is the gift of free will. So we must respect the fact that a person have the autonomy to choose whether to hold space, or I'll use this word in this sense, whether to value, right? Receive your value or to reject your value. We must give people the autonomy to choose and respect their choices. And I think that once we learn to respect the choices of others, whether they choose to appreciate your value or not, we learn to then set boundaries. We learn to then um, walk away from environments that do not go to the furtherance of your or seek to minimize, or seek to, where you're not, I'll use this way, I'll say it this way. Once you learn to appreciate your value, you then will remove yourself from every environment that does not give you what you need to flourish, right? Because if they don't, it's kind of like this, right? If I love I love hibiscus. I love hibiscus flowers, right? I love it, right? But if I am a hibiscus and I find myself in an environment where I am not, my true self is not being nourished. My true self is not being valued, which means that it's, you are literally causing um darkness to be cover, to like cover my light. I know I'm saying that just a little bit too much, but you are, when you sit with value in an environment that does not appreciate your value, you will never grow. Thank you, Holy Spirit, because I was going, when you do not remove yourself from environments that do not appreciate your value, you will not grow. And hence, you won't continue on in your journey of uncovering your true self, right? Because remember, our value does not depreciate, but always appreciates in value. And the appreciation in value comes from being in environments that hold space for our value and is able to provide nourishment. And so when we sit in environments with that do not appreciate our value, then we kind of stay stagnant, right? We don't grow. And so that is for employment, that is for relationships, and I mean relationships in the sense of friendships, other intimate relationships, whatever ships that it is. Um, we must we must find ourselves in environments that appreciate your value. If someone does not appreciate your value, then it's like they either see the value and don't find it worthy, or they have an inability to see the value. Either way, it's time to go. Either way, it's like there's no sense of staying there. There's no sense of staying there, because all that's going to do is just cause stress for you. So it's time to go, And I think in the terms of like relationship, we were talking about that Cam Newton and Dr. Bryant interview. In terms of relationship, I think we navigate the space of relationship in a much healthier way when we're able to understand that my value is not determined, right, or affected by others, the decision of others, right? If a person does not see the value in you, that's okay. It's okay. Why? Because it's a non-factor. It's inconsequential. It's inconsequential. And so because it's inconsequential, it's okay to say, I understand your decision and I respect your decision. But your decision leads me to make my decision, which is I don't want to be around anyone that does not see or appreciate my value. Period. And that's okay. Because that's the boundary that you create from being able to appreciate your value. Now, I have to say this, a lot of us have to go back to childhood and identify that place or that experience in which we carry in our collective unconscious that robs us of seeing our own value. Because I believe that we navigate this world um, based upon how we see ourselves. And we invite experiences in our lives that are not conducive to our mental and emotional health because we have not spent the time to look back at our life, childhood, and reconcile those things that we hold disruptive, in our collective unconscious, you know? And it's so important. Um, I did a podcast on this. It's called, Collecting Your Stones, something like that. Go check out Love and Law podcast at the season 2, um, that I talk about that, going back into your past and um, getting those things that things that rob you, that it keeps on robbing you of your future. I know I start with myself. Um, Many of you know, and I've said this on, I think on season 1. I grew up in Jamaica, and I grew up with my grandfather and my uncle and my aunt. And my mom left when I was young, and my dad, although, and I say this before I say anything else, I'm in a place where I love both my parents, despite the decisions that they made. I appreciate them both, and we are in a space of forgiveness, and loving ourselves and our relationships going forward. So let me say that before I say this, because I think people get it twisted. Sometimes you start talking, they think things are unresolved. Um, but in saying that, I'll say this now, that my mom left when I was young age. I didn't really have a relationship with my dad. As a matter of fact, a lot of his family members deny my very existence, and that was difficult growing up. Um, and what that did was that placed my, as far as how I viewed myself, because they denied my value. I grew up not holding space for my value, not understanding my value. And so I had to learn that because they made a decision, their decision did not rob me of my value, because my value cannot be affected by external sources. Their decision was just what they made under the circumstances that they were given, to believe that was what would require, that it was required of them to bring them safety, right? But it didn't affect me or my value. I had to come into understanding that my value, who I am as a person, the contribution that I was given to give to society, is unchanging and rests in Christ. And so at 16, the more I understood, the more that I sought Christ, and the more that I understood who he was the more that I saw myself, and the more that I saw my value in the earth. And once I came into that realization, everything started to make sense. right? Those things that my grandfather instilled in me, that nothing under the will of God was impossible, became things that I saw myself worthy of. And so it's like many of you have seen me throughout my journey, and have said like, boy, you are unstoppable. Right? You're like a freight train, like move or get moved, right? But that comes from me understanding that what I bring to the table is what I only can bring to the table. That my value that I have, the value that I have, that I bring forth, right, is something that is so unique to me that if you can't make space for it, you won't get it. And if you come into the space, if we are in our journeys through life have crossed paths, then we were called to cross paths for a reason. And so I find that if you can't see my value, then you've lost, right? You've lost. And how I see myself is how I see others. And that's another reason why we have to get to a place where we could hold space for our value, because then we learn to appreciate the value in others. We learn to see others in the sense of seeing their true self, their the person that God created them to be. Not looking at their trauma, not looking at the dysfunction, but looking at beyond that to see who God created them to be and to appreciate and make space for that. Until you learn to appreciate your own value, you cannot hold space for others. You will continuously seek to validate others based upon material possessions that are perishable. Oh, they have a job. Oh, they have status in society. Oh, they have this amount of assets. Oh, they drive this type of car, right? You'll never truly see a person's true value until you learn to see your own true value and learn to hold space and appreciate your own true value. You'll never get to harness the the benefit of relationships. And I tell you this life here on earth is built around relationships. God expects us to relate to others. God expects us to, you bring water, I bring the food, and we make soup, right? God expects us. There is no single calling on our lives that is so isolated that only you can do it. No. Whatever calling you have on your life is attached to somebody, right? Is attached to some relationship. And so until you understand your own true value, until you learn to appreciate your value and the uniqueness, right, of it, you won't be able to see others. And you're going to go through life using others, objectifying them, because you yourself don't find yourself valuable. And so you're going to objectify others in the sense that pinning value on them that is perishable, that's really non-existent. The reason why you meet that person is because there's something in that person that God needs you to have. And you'll never get to that place until you understand and appreciate your own value. And so I'm going to invite y'all to further this discussion on September 6th. at 7 o'clock on Love and Law Podcast. I'm gonna post the YouTube link on my page. Or if you're not subscribed, head on over to YouTube, type in Love and Law Podcast, and subscribe to our channel. Catch up on episode 1 and 2 as we get into launching episode 3. Sorry, season 1 and 2 as we get ready to launch season 3. And we'll further this discussion. This Friday, we're gonna be talking about dating in the pocket, spiritual covering while dating, and I'll pick up this conversation and touch on, because I think before we even start dating, we need to understand our value. So I'll touch on this as we begin. But I love y'all. I hope y'all got something from this. Um, and you could share it with others. And I hope my prayer for you is that you will get a moment to sit still in the presence of God and understand that true value, that value that God placed inside of you before you was even placed in your mother's womb, while you were conceived in the mind of God. He put that special thing inside of you. And I hope to see that. I hope that because we have crossed paths, that gets to be revealed and I get to see your true self as we journey on this season 3 together. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And I will see y'all on Friday. Peace.